If you're running a software development agency, it shouldn't be too hard to grow. Welcome to ManagedCoder Podcast. Tune in every week to find out how to grow your software development agency and help you to solve your day-to-day problems. With 20 plus years experience running an agency, please welcome your host, Shahed Islam.
Hey, Lucky. Welcome. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, Shahad. I'm Lucky Gobindram. I'm General Manager of CemtrexXR and CemtrexLabs.
Thank you. Thank you. So tell me a little bit more about your agency and how many years you've been into agency world.
Sure. So I've been in the agency world for a decade. It started as a small shop that me and my brother founded at the Coreware Creative Technology Lab. End-to-end strategy, design, development, deployment. We are agnostic to vertical, sector, and technology. We sold the agency to Cemtrex about 4 years ago and have been with them ever since.
Okay. The reason I contacted you, I saw you guys were listed as one of the top agency on one of the portal. And I was wondering that, when I look into your agency, how do you add value to the client? What are the reasons behind the success you got on Clutch Top 100? Why are you there? If somebody is listening to our podcast, what would you tell them to do?
So there's a number of ways to add value to your client. It's not always so simple or straightforward. I think we've been able to look at our business over a decade and analyze how the best projects have gone versus the more challenging ones, because not everything is always perfect. And, that's helped us being able to lean in and grow. Now, the value we provide is a mix of things. It starts before they're a client to when they're a client to, after they're a client. And that starts by us communicating our unique value proposition, understanding our audience and identifying our audience, understanding how to meet a client's specific goals, not trying to do everything, trying to do the parts of the stack or the ecosystem that we are best at and speak to that and really be able to, communicate that. Mm-hmm. And that comes from leveraging visible marketing and providing that pre-sales and helping customers before there are customers know that value before they're even there. And, it's not trying to serve everything. It's speaking directly to those things. And then ultimately listening to those prospective clients and, then being able to, throughout the process, address those clients' needs by your unique value proposition. Mm-hmm. So us specifically, as we've evolved and continue to evolve, we've seen small and medium enterprises to be the best businesses for us. Mm-hmm. They are an underserved audience. They are challenged by, price and service. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times the creme de la creme who may be, at the top 3 or the top 4, global agencies are way too expensive and they just simply can't afford them. And the smaller agencies are unable to provide the pedigree of work. So in our case, we start looking at that specific audience, the organizations that do 50 million to under $1 billion that, are looking for a consulting IT strategy firm that can understand the technology they have, be able to build on that technology or modernize that technology, as well as continue to help them address business challenges. And that's by a magnitude of things, right? It could be that, hey, I'm gonna provide you an end-to-end service on a project. More often than not, we see today that a lot of these organizations are looking for talent. They have a lot of trouble finding talent and servicing their own demand. And, they don't necessarily want you to come in and do things end to end, but they would love for you to be able to understand their infrastructure, their tech, give them an architect, build a team around an architect, help them hire, help them trade out talent and move quickly and be agile. So to us, it's like, well, how do we serve that, right? And how do we augment them? And how do we build towards their problem statement? And if you look at the agency world, to be honest, right, agencies that provide services that are, basically, I'm gonna build you a website, right? It's in the single digit billions. But if you look at the IT spend of the global ecosystem, you're looking at, multiple double digit billions. Majority of those people and those larger organizations, whether it be, small or medium enterprise, you start to learn that they want to have more control and more visibility and some of these things. So us as an organization, as we've heard these things and listened, we've continued to optimize for it. So how we add value is truly through our messaging, our listening, and then how we position our services to really address those challenges and help these organizations be able to, above all, service their problem statement.
Thank you, Lucky. So, Lucky, what I found out talking to other agency owner who has grown over the last 5 years or double their revenue, let's say, one of the problem in early days, we all made that mistake that we target too many customer, right? That means
Sure.
you mentioned like SME, like, I always thought that, I can go ahead and get a Fortune 500 company. I did, but getting a second one was a myth. It's either hit or miss, right? But
Great. I've been the same
yeah. So now what you said, it is really important here that, can you elaborate that why an agency is growing? They should concentrate on SME market, maybe company with revenue few $1 million, and they can afford you, and you can actually give them a better service also. So tell me a little bit about that.
You can't boil an ocean, right? As good as it sounds, right? First off, not everybody's a good customer, right? Yeah. And that's not meaning that they're a bad customer, but you need to have a persona of your buyer. You need to understand your buyer. And after several months or a year or a couple of years doing it, assess your funnel, assess the businesses you've done work with, and assess your successes and see which ones are the most profitable, right? In our case, we see SMEs as that vertical for us. And there's even more, zeroing in that we've done in SMEs, whether it be industry or specific services we can offer to that SME and how we gain the most value and how we add the most value. So an agency should target an audience because one, it needs to know its buyer so it can speak to that buyer specifically, right? The more specific you are in marketing and more specific you are in messaging, the higher your sell-through rating would be. And like you, Shahid, I once upon a time was like, let me go get the Fortune 10, right? I called every single one. I tried to get every single one, and I got one, right? But getting a second one, not so easy. And even like, I'm working with X, this is why Y should work with me. They're not really interested, right? And like, a lot of times your relationships will take you so far, right? Like most other people probably listening to this podcast, I started based on all my relationships. I was shaking hands and kissing babies and, working my network. And, I was able to get to, a sizable amount of revenue, but that caps out. And, that hockey stick growth levels, right? So at some point you need to assess on that growth pattern, what worked and what didn't work. And then you need to target an audience and be able to speak to their pain points specifically. And if you listen to them, you can address those challenges and you could speak directly to the value propositions that would in turn, drive them to want to speak to you and then buy your services, right? And, it sounds simple, but to be honest with you, it took me a long time to get to that point of understanding. I'm still learning, right? Yeah. As you know, and I alluded to, right? I'm evolving the business and we continue to evolve, right? And, we're a learning organization.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And,
we all
make mistakes. I fail 9 out of 10 times. I fail more often than I win. It's just a reality,
Yeah.
right? But you know, what I've learned is data is a truth teller. And if you look at the data and historical data, right, you can start informing future decisions. And from there, you can zero in. And the more audience targeting you can do, the more likely you are to reach the consumers interested in your services with relevant messaging.
Mm-hmm.
It also decreases the odds you'll waste time, which is money, on uninterested eyeballs and conversations, and help move potential customers down the proverbial funnel.
Mm-hmm.
And it yields results.
Yep. Yeah. So one thing came to my mind, which is we are talking about failure here. Like just because you tried some niche, and a lot of agency owner I talk in the past, they think that, you know what, I'm going to try. I have tried with A and it worked. I'm going to try B and it will work. But they also asked me that question that, the B did not work out, the niche customer, like another group of people. But I said, I fail every month, every year. We had a big plan beginning of the year to target another audience, and we did not get any clients, but we worked for 6 8 months, and then I said, you know what, probably this is not the right field. Do you feel you also experience similar trend, like where failure is there,
Sure.
but
I
even
think
people are
failure is
saying you
better than
like class
success, to be
100,
honest with
you
you.
have achieved a lot, but you probably fail a lot more times also, and after that you get success.
For sure. And failure is better than success, to be honest with you. Success is sweeter, but
Yeah.
failure teaches you something. A lot of times when you succeed, you fail to learn the lessons that you need to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, like you, I fail quite often. And, you
Mm-hmm.
know, I'm not shy to admit that. You know, I feel that if I don't fail, then I'll never succeed. And, you know, if you're not trying, you're not learning. Um, you know, and it happens all the time. There are services and industries I spin up and I'm like, okay, we're going to do this. It's going
Yeah.
to be great. And then
So
90 days later, 120 days later, I'm like, oh, wasted my time. This is not working, right? But I didn't really waste it. But like, you know, I definitely learned something. But you know, this time sunk. But you can't think about it that way, right?
yeah.
You know, it's a necessary part of the equation to get to the promised land,
Yeah.
right? And I don't know. I think
Yeah, I mean that is
people are too
always the
scared to
case. Like,
fail.
but I can think those who are our listener probably would think that these people who are successful, they are always winning. They
No,
whatever decision they made, it's everything is perfect. It's not like that. Following up with that, one other things I'm interested that there are so many new technologies coming out. There are a lot of new. I mean, what I found out that 5 years ago I could say, oh, there are few things I could do and provide service to SME. Now I'm sure even in Shopify, there are API development, there are front end work, there are management. Now, how do you decide on new field? How do you get into the new field of in your service, which is related to that? And how do you decide which one will work and give, our follower that if they can follow some formula?
I don't know. There's a direct formula, right? Well, there's a couple of things that I pay attention. I pay attention to market trends. I pay attention to other technologies that I see growth in. For example, WordPress, right? You know, WordPress was once just a blogging technology. Everybody was like, "Oh, it's a blog." WordPress makes up the lion's share of the web today, right? Whether you're a
80
startup,
plus, right? 80
you know,
plus percentage or something.
80 plus, correct, yes. And like, today we're one of 12 gold partners of WordPress Enterprise Suite of Solutions, WordPress VIP, right? There's literally dozens of people trying to build WordPress out there, but we're one of 12 partners that are working directly with Automatic to use their enterprise cloud computing solutions to enable enterprises to build on those platforms and those tools.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't come because I just knew. I was like, "Oh, let's do this." I was paying attention to trends, right? And I started by doing a little bit of WordPress development, and I saw, okay, it's working. Then I started optimizing towards it. Even Shopify, right? Like Shopify was something that I was building e-commerce, and we were building WooCommerce, we were building on Magento, we were building on BigCommerce, we were building custom websites for e-commerce. We were doing everything. And then I started to see a trend. People wanted things that were easy for them. They wanted these tools that their marketing team could use, and they wanted some of these things. So I started optimizing towards those things, right? And I think that's a very important thing. It's like, you can pay attention to your customer, but you also on your side, as you're running this business, you need to pay attention to trends. It's like I alluded to in that first question, Trent. It's like, staff augmentation. People would think that's like not counterintuitive, right? Like people want people to build everything end to end. Over my time and looking at it, and just me being a diligent person and reading about different companies, you start to realize what's important to these SMEs. It's control of resources, it's flexibility, it's all these different things. So what does that point towards? If those are the things they want, what type of service do they need? Okay, they need access to resources. They need dynamic resources. They need, they need second tier resources that can do cloud computing and all these other more complex things. So, okay, it's not just staff augmentation. It's staff augmentation of full stack developers that can use all these other tools and do all these things that are senior architects. Okay, so let's do that. And let's make it easy for them, right? So that's how I'm looking at things. And that's how I'm trying to spin up new services. And that's how I even knew to spin up my AR VR business, right? Because I was like, we're doing too much. Okay, why are people confused? They're like, do they do AR, VR? Do they do web? Do they do mobile? Okay, make this a separate business. Do this and separate my funnels. Speak more concertedly to these audiences. And then you start to see things start working and moving towards a more successful pattern.
No, this is amazing. I mean, like what you have done. I mean, congrats again. Lucky, sorry, we have a limited time here on the podcast, but I would love to catch up with you in future on other topic because you know a lot. What is the best way people can contact you?
They can shoot me an email, lucky@Cemtrex.com. They can, they can get me on Twitter. My handle is LL Gobindram. Okay. And, you can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Lucky Lane K Gobindram. I'm very responsive across the board. So, whatever means is preferable. I'm happy to chat. I'm excited and I welcome conversation. And I love sharing expertise and I love knowledge and, just having an open discourse with people. So don't hesitate to have people reach out, or please do reach out, I should say.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It was very nice talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others. Post about it on social media or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us on Twitter @ManagedCoder or visit our website at ManagedCoder.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.